Good morning. Quite the crowd we have here today. The rowdy crowd over there. It's Unitarian Universalist tradition to light a chalice, so that is what I'm going to attempt to do here. Well, welcome to the Unitarian Church of Lincoln on this Sunday morning. My name is the Reverend Oscar Sinclair. I'm joined on the chancel this morning by our worship associate, Michael Reinmiller, who will be leading the reflection later today. We gathered together. Happy Super Bowl Sunday for those of you observing. We do say here that you are welcome, whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your gender, whatever your age, whatever your skin color. I would add that you are welcome whether you are a Rams fan, a Bengals fan, a Packers fan working your way through the 5 stages of grief, or somebody who profoundly does not care. All are welcome. We are drawing the circle wide today. We are also drawing the physical circle very wide. If you are here in the room, you may notice that our sanctuary is set up a little bit differently. One of the new projects that we've been working on at the congregation is hosting the Nebraska Chamber Players. They had their first concert last night, and so we currently have the room still set up for the chamber players. We will reset it back to what it looks like for our services before next Sunday, and we will figure out how we navigate that. They are playing again tonight, this afternoon at 3 p.m. So the Nebraska Chamber Players will be playing here this afternoon at 3 p.m. If you have not seen them, they are wonderful. All right. So back to the scripted welcome. Over the last few years, the way that we have often met as a church has changed, often. Whether that's in person, on Zoom, on a YouTube live stream, or some way of being together that we haven't figured out yet, worship together is a chance to deepen our connection with the sources of meaning in our lives, to proclaim who we are and what we are about, to throw open the doors of the congregation and proclaim the radical love and hospitality that is at the heart of this faith. We say that the Unitarian Church of Lincoln aspires to be a loving community, uniting reason with spiritual exploration to transform ourselves and the world. That is a big statement. So welcome to this little part of it. Welcome to this loving community. May we, in our work of gathering here, be about the process of transforming the world and ourselves. And we will begin with music.
Our story today is called What is Given from the Heart by Patricia C. McKissack. It was a rough few months for Mama and me. We were already poor, but we got poorer last April when we lost my dad. Come June, we lost the farm, and on Friday the 13th it rained frogs, everything flooded, and Smitty, my dog, disappeared. Misery loves company, Mama said, shaking her head as she swept water out the back door. I hugged her up close the way I always did when she was sad or I was scared. As long as we have our health and strength, we are blessed, James Otis, Mama said, trying to sound brave. But things didn't get any better. We got an early snowfall in November and Christmas was skimpy, but we made it through to the new year. Before I realized February was upon us, with Valentine's Day just 2 weeks away. One Sunday, Reverend Dennis made an announcement during services. Just as we always do, we'll be delivering love boxes to needy folks in our community, he said. Irene Temple and her little girl have lost everything in a fire. We must add them to our list. Next week, bring whatever you think might be useful to them. And remember, what is given from the heart reaches the heart. James Otis, we need to help out, Mama said on the cold walk home. Mama kept right on talking. Sister Bunch told me the daughter's name is Sarah. She's 7, 2 years younger than you. You can find a little bit of something for her, don't you think? I wasn't convinced. What do I have that a little girl would want? Now, said Mama. Remember what Reverend Dennis said? What is given from the heart reaches the heart. That night, I lay warm and toasty under one of Mama's quilts. Still, it made me tremble to think about fire taking away what little we did have. What can I give Sarah to make up for all that she's lost? I wondered. I considered the blue ribbon I'd won in the school spelling bee. No, the award was important to me, but it would mean nothing to her. I looked over at my beautiful sparkling rock, the one I'd found down by the creek, but how would that help Sarah? You can't eat a rock. Unable to come up with anything good, I pulled the covers over my head and I drifted off to sleep. Come morning, I found Mama in the kitchen busy sewing. I know if we had a fire, I would miss my aprons, Mama explained. So I've decided to make Mrs. Temple one. But Mama, you're using your white tablecloth, the only nice thing that you have. James Otis, I'm stitching with a loving heart. My hope is that this apron will give as much joy to Mrs. Temple as the tablecloth has given me. Mama's smile was a welcome sight. That made me study harder on what I could contribute. Maybe Sarah would like something to play with, like my whistle from Dexter Benson's birthday party. But my spit was all over it. What about my crayons? I drew so many pictures with them, even though the black, pink, and dark blue were missing. No way, I couldn't give her used crayons, and I couldn't give her my pencil that was just a nub and not much eraser left either. As time flew toward Valentine's Day, I fretted more and more. I considered giving Sarah a puzzle. It didn't bother me that 2 pieces were missing, but it might bother her. No, that wouldn't do, not even with a bow on it. And neither could my capeless Superman Halloween costume. Then I remembered my book, Things That Roll. Mama had paid 10 cents for it at the resale shop. I read it every night until I'd memorized each word, and then I drew pictures of all the stuff that rolled. Sarah might enjoy my book, I thought, but I don't know, maybe she didn't like trucks and marbles and such. Still, it got me thinking. I gathered my crayons, my pencil, and some paper and got busy. So on the Sunday before Valentine's Day, we were off to church. Along the way, Mama told me, as usual, the trustees will deliver the love boxes to the homes of those in need, but Reverend Dennis has invited the Temples to receive theirs at Olive Chapel so they can meet the congregation. The church was full. Mama beamed as she carefully placed the apron in the box, and when we presented the Temples with their love box filled with all kinds of clothing, food, tools, and toys, Mrs. Temple was overcome with emotion. And the congregation shouted, "Amen." Even so, Sarah seemed sad and afraid. She clung to her mama's arm and hid her face. I walked over to where she was standing. "Hi, Sarah," I said, sounding cheery-like. "My name's James Otis, and I'm pleased to meet you." "Same to you," she answered, looking at her feet. "Here," I said, handing her my gift. "I wrote it, I drew the pictures, and I put it together by myself, just for you." Sarah managed a smile as she stared at the book I'd made. Then, real slow-like, she read the cover. "From My Heart to Your Heart" by James Otis Petway. It's about a little girl named Sarah, and "Don't tell me," she said. "I want to read about myself by myself." "I can't believe it," she squealed. "A book about me." And then she covered her mouth to catch a giggle. Seeing little Sarah happy made me happy too. I laughed out loud. "I put some hard words in it so you can look them up." "You sound like my teacher," Sarah said, and pressed the book to her heart, closed her eyes, and whispered, "Thank you, James Otis. I will keep this book forever and ever." Walking home, Mama held my hand. "The Temples looked very grateful," she said. "I think we reached their hearts," I said. Mama nodded. "I'm proud of you, James Otis." "How come?" I asked. "'Cause you're you." In winter, night comes early. The sky was darkening, and it had started to snow. I stuck my tongue out to catch a snowflake as Mama spun joyfully round and round, and suddenly Mama stopped. "Look, there's something on our porch," she said. I rushed ahead, and there it was. A love box had been delivered to us, and our hearts rejoiced. Our hearts rejoiced. And although that is the end of our story, I would just like to share with you that right now as we speak, our Youth in Action group, 6th through 12th grade, are making some love boxes of their own to hand out to folks who are unhoused. So that's an exciting thing that our congregation is doing at the moment.
Each week when we gather together, we set aside a part of the middle of our service. Nope, we're not there yet. Our opening hymn. Woo. The next hymn is number 407. We're going to sit at the welcome table. If you would please join in singing, either using the words on the screen or using the words at home on your screen if you are there. And once we are done singing that, then we will do Joys and Sorrows. All right. At the center of our services every week, we set a time to join together as a community to mark important moments in our lives. We share with each other our joys, our sorrows, the events that mark the steps on our collective journey. The threads of sorrow and those of joy are intertwined in the fabric of our lives, present for all, remembered by all. We share those threads, and then they are woven together with those of others in our community. Our joys are shared and magnified. We are comforted in our sorrows. So because we have folks here in the congregation, present physically, we'll start by asking who we are carrying in sorrow this morning. I invite you to either type into the chat if you are joining us on our live stream, or speak into this shared space if you are here in person, the name of someone you wish to be remembered in sorrow this morning. Eric. Isabel. Letha. The Har family, Deirdre. My friend Abby, children under 5 waiting for a vaccine. John, who has brain cancer, and his wife, Marla. I talk about this every week. I say joy and sorrow are woven fine in our lives. And so by way of introducing joys, I suppose I'll take a point of personal privilege and say that on Wednesday, a dear friend of mine died, and 2 hours later, one of my oldest friends had a baby. So when we say joy and sorrow are woven fine, sometimes it is very, very fine indeed. So into this shared space, I invite you to type into the chat or speak into this space the name of another you wish to be remembered in joy. I will start with little Zoe Braxton, born healthy on Wednesday afternoon. Daughter Rosalind's 26th birthday.
Mia on her 16th birthday.
Mia on her 16th birthday.
Marty for selling her house yesterday.
Marty for selling her house yesterday. Joy for what would have been Alice Coley's 74th birthday on Wednesday. Earl Kramer writes, joy that my brother is home from experimental heart treatment. Pam Wakeman is sling-free. Jamie Radcliffe, joy for Wendy, getting stronger slowly. Dana Atterbury writes, joy for the stream of cards, wishing Craig and I hope, health, and humor. Thank you for the doses of joy. My youngest got her driver's license. This is mostly a joy. Sheila M., who now has a weight-bearing leg. And for all of the joys and sorrows that are unspoken but no less deeply felt for it, let's hold a moment of silence before we begin our next hymn. Our next hymn is 1009 in the Teal Hymnal, which is the meditation on breathing. We're going to try and put the lyrics up here. It is very short. It is 4 measures long, but it has 3 different parts. So the first 2 times through, we'll sing the bass part, which is breathe in, breathe out. The second 2 times, if you want to sing the melody with me, we'll invite you to do that. The 2 times after that, if you want to sing the descant, I will not be leading that because my range is not that high. But there are some folks in here who will. And then we'll sing it all together 2 more times. Clear as mud. I'm going to get away from a live mic in order to do this. But our next hymn is the Meditation on Breathing.
I come up here with this sheet of paper so it looks like I know what I'm doing. I'm supposed to introduce Fresh Start, and I'm sure most of you folks have heard me yammer about it. It is dear to my heart. It's a women's shelter. I don't know how much I'm supposed to talk about because I think there's a video as well. So I'm introducing a video. But if you don't know about it, check it out. It's inspiring to see what amazing things are happening, and here's the video.
Greetings. My name is Jean Helms, and I am the Administrative Director of the Unitarian Church. And I'm here today with Monica Zinke from Fresh Start. And this month, we are featuring Fresh Start as the Share the Plate recipient, which means that normally one Sunday a month, we take an offering, which we give to our Share the Plate organization. However, during the pandemic, what we've been doing is running that Share the Plate for the entire month. So you can send in a contribution anytime in the month of February that will go directly to Fresh Start to benefit them and their services. And so I'm going to let Monica introduce herself and tell us more about their work.
Hi, well, I'm Monica Zinke, as Jean said, and I'm the Executive Director of Fresh Start. And as many of you know, because Unitarians are full of friends of ours, but Fresh Start is a transitional program for women experiencing homelessness, and they can be homeless for any reason. So we're really kind of a catch-all for the Lincoln community for women that don't have children with them and that are homeless for any reason. And they can come and live with us for up to a year. So it gives them more time to really settle in and take a breath. There's a lot of women that come here and they're not sure where to start, but they still are so used to having to just try and get everything done in a month or in 90 days so that they can move out of where they are. So the year stay really just gives them time to settle in and take a breath and hopefully do first things first, address the health concern before they look for their next job or things like that. And so that's really in a nutshell what we do here at Fresh Start.
What has it been like for you the last year or two?
It's been a rough couple years. I will say though that through it all, we have so much gratitude for the support that we've received because we have a lot of supporters, including ones from the UU congregation that reach out and say, can we still bring the supper? What can we do? Are you short on anything? Do you need some crafts for the residents? Do you need, so people really reaching out to us as an organization with contributions of items or funds, but also reaching out to say, how can we support really your core mission beyond just, a check, beyond that. And that really shows us how much people care about what we do and care about all the women that are here. And so we've remained full of gratitude through it for that purpose.
If you would like to give a contribution to Fresh Start, the easiest way to do that is to give through text giving. All you need to do is text UC Lincoln space and the amount to 73256. That's UC Lincoln and the amount to 73256, and that information will also be in the chat. As usual, you can also mail a check or give through your online database realm. Thank you again for being with us today, and I wish you all the best in the coming year as we start to come out of this very strange time.
Hopefully we're coming out of it. Yes.
Yeah.
Our reading this morning is from Starhawk, who writes, "We are all longing to go home, to some place we have never been, a place half remembered and half envisioned we can only catch glimpses of from time to time, community. Somewhere there are people to whom we can speak with passion, without having the words catch in our throats. Somewhere a circle of hands will open to receive us. Eyes will light up as we enter. Voices will celebrate with us whenever we come into our own power. Community means strength that joins our strength to do the work that needs to be done. Arms to hold us when we falter. A circle of healing. A circle of friends. Someplace where we can be free." You say a word about the sermon because it's a different format than we've used in the past. Well, actually, we've used this format, but it's been about a year since we've done this. Michael and I have been talking for months now, I think, about this sort of fundamental question of how to be a good person in the world while also being a parent in the world. So we went through a couple versions of how to do this, but eventually what we ended up doing was just having that conversation with each other with a camera running, and then we did some editing on it. So this is a sermon in the form of a conversation. I hope you enjoy it as much as we did in the having of it. We'll start now.
So I have some notes that I took the last time we talked about this.
Yeah, let's start there. Let's start there.
We started on, we talked about widening the circle, and to me that means inherent worth and dignity of every person, which I'm sure have you heard of that before, Oscar? Have you heard that?
Once or twice. Once or twice.
Okay, well, I'm sure it means different things to different folks.
What does it mean to you?
To Michael Reinmiller, it means,
Yeah.
I think of how we treat folks that are not as well off, from homelessness to some genders don't quite get the same shake as folks that are me and Caucasian.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to widen the circle, the blessings that are cast upon me need to be shared to all those folks. That's what my brain goes to.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's 100% right or not, but that's the way my brain's swinging the bat, at least.
That makes sense.
And when I think of homelessness, I think about the hostile architecture in downtown Lincoln, the bars over the benches. That's not welcoming at all or showing dignity to someone who is homeless or experiencing homelessness.
So talk to me about hostile architecture. First of all, for the viewing public, what is hostile architecture?
Well, I found a quote online. I can tell you it is a sort of unkindness that is considered, designed, approved, funded, and made really with the explicit motive to exclude and harass. So those are bars on benches saying, we don't want you here. You can't lay down. Get out of our sight. You're not welcome here. Go away.
Right.
So that just infuriates me. I like to think of Lincoln and my community and where I'm raising Jack to say, I'm here to help you. I want to see you. I want to see you be successful. And if I see you laying down homeless, I'm going to go out and see what I can do to help you. But if you're out of sight, out of mind, it's no problem of mine.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things that's often struck me in sort of the hostile architecture is that it's hard to see until you start seeing it.
Oh, gosh, yes.
And then it's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, the default answer was, oh, those are for the skateboarders. They don't want the skateboarders to ruin stuff. And I'm like, that might be one of the reasons that some of the stuff is here, but that's not why it's all here.
Right, right. Because without really thinking about how you might use a park bench, the idea that a park bench, I remember when this happened in New York City, park benches went from being a single flat bench to 3 or 4 chairs glued together, basically.
Yeah.
And the only thing that affects is whether or not you can lay down on the bench.
Yeah. So one of the notes I wrote when we started talking about this a month or so ago was how difficult it is to live with integrity. Like, it's easy for me to just say, not my problem. I don't need to lay down there.
Right. So how did you make the switch from saying I don't need to lay down there to this is a thing that I need to engage and I need to pay attention to?
I'm thinking it was in 2012 or 2013. A brilliant woman came and spoke at the Unitarian Church by the name of Monica Zinke. And she, I was at a rough spot at that point in my life, and I was there thinking I'm spending my time and my energy and accomplishing nothing for society. And she just lit a spark under my you-know-what, and I keep getting more and more involved. And so I'm on the board, I'm on the Homeless Coalition, pantry stuff. I mean, there's like, what can I do? I want to do more. And I feel like I'm dog paddling in a monstrously huge ocean, and it's like so much to do. And I'm unfortunately not related to Bill Gates, so I can't make things happen as well as I'd like them to.
What did Monica say in 2012?
She was just talking about the stats of homelessness in Lincoln and how Fresh Start has been so successful. And I thought, I need to be a part of that. I need to do something. And the more I get involved, the more I realize there's a lot to do. And I think that those messages that she spoke of hit our 7 principles like a sledgehammer, just solid. Yeah. And I just think, empowering women when we live in a country that women don't get paid as much. I mean, it's you hit one whack of the hammer and you're doing a lot of those 7 principles with her and her projects.
Right. Are you still involved with Fresh Start? Are you still?
I'm on the board still right now.
Yeah.
And then every second Sunday of the month, this Sunday, a bunch of UUs get together, and we used to up to 2 years ago, go and sit with the residents. And that was so awesome because it was, I don't know if you've ever been there, but they've got this huge long table, and it's just so welcoming to sit and break bread, sit down and eat and talk about the cost of a gallon of milk, or how much a tire costs when you get a flat tire, whatever those conversations are. It was so leveling, we were all on the same level. Mm-hmm. And that was just so cool to see, we'll talk about this book or that book or favorite cartoon, whatever, fill in the blank. But since the pandemic has kind of ruined that for us, we every second Sunday deliver a whole ton of food there. Hopefully there's a bunch of leftovers, because often they'll work and they can take Tupperware to work and have lunch with the leftovers. This Sunday, we're making a big batch of chili and cinnamon rolls and wintry goodness.
Nice. I guess the thing that I'm professionally interested in is that lots of people hear about this stuff, right? Lots of people hear preachers preach or guest speakers speak on the need to act justly in the world. And if we're honest, we're happy when we bat 200, like when 1 in 5 people hear that and say, I'm going to work to do something about that. And your story is remarkable, because you are not just one of those 5, but then sort of one of those 50 who really, really dived into it. So
I think
yeah,
I got more and more into it, even more so once Jack was born, because I thought I need to show him how important I need to live the values, not just sit back and drink a beer and watch football, since I'm going to reference that for this Sunday.
Sure.
And say, you know, let's eat some popcorn, have some Doritos, and watch some football, and not do anything, just complain about it. There's not a lot of times where he crawls into the back of my truck and has to move donations out of the way to get into his seat. And I want him to say, gosh, Dad, what a pain in the butt. I want him to realize we're doing something. You know,
Right.
80% of my gas is driving to pantries, and I think he's slowly figuring that out. But it's just, I think if I say something stupid, he repeats it. And so that kind of lit another light under my, you know what, to say, I have to kind of walk the walk here because I'm being watched.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
so, and back to the hostile architecture, I've had friends just say, you know, a cordless Sawzall is $90. You can saw those arms off and they're gone in like 2 minutes. And I said, yeah, be the good kind of bad. I like that. At the same time, do I really want to see Jack
Right.
talk to me with handcuffs on? No. I just think there has to be a way to do something right without doing something wrong. I hope, you know?
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, well, you and I are both, our kids were born, what, a month apart from each other?
Yeah, I think real close, yeah.
Yeah. I think the first time I met you, we were probably, our families were both expecting about the same time.
And I don't think you and I either of us we were technically expecting, but we didn't know what we were expecting. Well, I was expecting, but I don't know how to word that. But yeah, so Mike, I guess I keep going back to, I'm angry about those things, but how do I, since he's watching me, how do I, my dad made up the word pistivity. I've reached the level of pistivity that I can stand. It's not a word. Microsoft Word does not let me type that word. But I have reached a level of pistivity where this is just not acceptable.
Right.
And how do I feel like I'm just shouting into the wind on most of this stuff. They're like, yeah, there's a lot of homeless people. Yeah, women aren't paid as much. Yeah, this, that. And I'm like, well, no, damn it. I'm going to put my foot down. Let's do something. Something has to change. And since he's watching me, I don't know what to do next. So
No.
when we talked about doing this, I wanted to like ask the congregation, please help, you know, I need your help here. Touching the principles, I was like, we're an interdependent web, right? Well, our web needs some work, needs some serious work.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel really preachy now. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, as that's the idea. You know, one of the things, I don't know that we've talked about this in a worship service before, but it's certainly been on my mind for the last 4 years, and I wonder if it resonates at all with you. There's a lot of really negative images and examples of masculinity in the world right now for the last 2,000 years. And I find myself now in my late 30s as a straight white father of a young child going, what are the positive models of fatherhood, of this role that I find myself in, that are not grounded in sort of this very negative patriarchal, we don't express emotions other than anger, right? And how can I sort of reclaim the positive parts of that piece of who I am, while also moving towards some kind of new model of doing it constructively.
It's not easy. I was raised, now my parents, I'm not bashing them in any way, shape, or form, but we were raised in an environment where it's acceptable for a man to get angry, and
Right.
And I don't think I've ever heard my dad swear except in a joke. But on TV, just flip to any channel. Men get angry, they throw over tables. That's okay. In fact, to show how imperfect I am, when the video I made for this service, I was told I couldn't do it, right? And I'm going to bed. And Melanie says, "What's wrong?" I says, "Oh, leave me alone." And here I am saying that to her as the whole video is about how to be respectful towards women and not be hostile towards and angry. So I default to being, and I don't want to be that, especially since now Jack was asleep, but
Right.
that's my default and I don't want it to be. So when you ask a model, looking for a positive model, to me, my hero growing up and still is Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
I think you could have punched him in the face and he'd say, "That's a really nice fist." You know what? I mean, that's how he would respond. "I'm glad you've got your anger out. Let's find a more healthy way to do it." I mean, that's how he would respond, not
Right.
throwing a chair, So yeah.
And Fred Rogers was not without opinions. I mean, he wasn't just sort of a passive recipient of everything. He had change that he was trying to affect, and I think did. So that
Well, I said earlier, the most impactful change that I will ever make in my entire life isn't through the volunteer work or any of that. I think it's through Jack.
yeah.
Because if I live to be 90, that's a few more years at least of hopeful positive change. But he's got a whole lifetime ahead of him. If I do it right, if I really do it right, I think that I have hope. I really have hope. He and Ailish will be president of the United States and make world peace. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that.
I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe you didn't want me to mention her name. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. That's fine. So as long as we're telling embarrassing Ailish stories. So this is an embarrassing Oscar story. I got in trouble from Ailish's school as she got sent home with a note from the teacher saying, "Does anybody know where she's learning to swear?" So we worked on that for a little while, and then she swore in front of Stacy, and Stacy says, "Well, I don't use that word." And Ailish throws me under the bus and goes, "Daddy does." So,
Daddy who? Daddy who?
yeah. So I've been working on that, but they do pick up the good and the bad of what we do.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how you have this precious little itty bitty thing and you're like, "I'm going to do so good with this going forward." And it's so easy to stub your toe. This morning, 4:45, that's when the alarm for the smoke alarm starts chirping.
Oh,
So
yeah.
of course I swing the door open, damn it, right outside his door. Now, granted, I didn't completely unload, but I'm half awake and I'm like, "Oh, which one is it?" But it's so easy to go into my little tunnel vision and not. Everything here is watching me. I affect everything around me in either a negative or positive way. And it's easy to forget that, at least for me.
So how does, to sort of draw this back, how does this conversation about parenting and what you pass on to Jack, how does that intersect with the church, with Unitarian Universalism?
Those 7 principles, inherent worth and dignity is number 1 for a reason. And then when you mention parenthood, my brain goes to the web, interdependent web. I mean, without me or Melanie, Jack isn't going to do very good at our house alone after a day or two. But so I think that the interdependent web there is just Melanie and me, but the second you walk out the door, the neighbor's dog, for crying out loud. I mean, we're all somehow in some way far and close connected, whether we want to admit it or not. When I was younger, I would have said, yeah, that's some rubbish. But I really believe that now. I mean, it takes a village. And I think an example of that is how these pantries have taken off.
Yeah.
I mean, there's over 40 of them in Lincoln now. That's insane to me. Our community is really cool. We just have to point that out a little bit more. And it's just so easy to focus on the negative.
Yeah. Well, and every time Jack has to push donations out of the way, getting into your truck, that's a demonstration of the interdependent web as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. Sometimes he steps on a loaf of bread, which I'm not happy about, but that might be Dad's fault for putting it there. Just maybe. So you mentioned earlier the positive fathers and role models in general for our kids. And I wrote down earlier, we mentioned changing tables. I don't think if a women's restroom has a changing table and a men's doesn't, isn't that just kind of expecting the woman to go and change the baby's diaper?
Mm-hmm.
That's not enabling a father to be successful. I mean, that's
right.
And when I used to joke with Melanie back when we went to restaurants, and this was a active complaint for me. It's kind of fallen off the last 2 years. But I used to say, well, jokingly, of course, I'd say, yeah, well, women get paid more than men. That's why you get to change the diaper. Of course, she knew I was being a smart, you know what, but so yeah, there's a lot of work we have to do. And being the white male, isn't it kind of my job to kind of ring that bell while I can,
Yeah, well, there's certainly value in drawing attention to it. I mean, it strikes me that the changing table example and the hostile architecture are both sort of these things where implicit in how our physical common spaces are set up, right? Restaurants or parks, there are value judgments about who's welcome and what are they doing. And I think it is very easy to overlook that stuff and just say, oh, that's how a park is set up. That's how bathrooms at a restaurant are set up. But to be able to see that and then say something about it is a really positive way to affect change, because just the act of seeing it suggests that a change is needed. If you don't see it, then it's never going to change.
Yeah. I don't want to be complicit.
Right.
It's a double-edged sword. I don't want to be the guy that whines all the time, but yet sometimes I feel like I'm the only one. So does that mean I should be twice as loud or not? I don't know.
That is the question of social justice. But
I kind of feel like, as far as the social justice argument goes, I feel like I barely even nicked the surface. Like I've touched just the tip of it. And the more podcasts I listen to and so on, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, we have a lot of work to do.
you know, for me, the question is less when do the people around me get tired of it, and more knowing what my own capacity to take it on is, because this happens every year or two where I get really fired up about 5 or 6 injustices in the world simultaneously, and I commit to working on all of them, and then I actually work on none of them as well as I'd like to, because I'm just too stretched. So the question for me is, how do I say this is the thing that I'm focusing on? And I can do that because I trust that there are people of goodwill working on this other thing that I see as important, but that I can't hold right now. what do you want to see out of the congregation in the next year or two?
From the congregation, I would love to say, help do one thing a month. Write a letter about the hostile architecture. Go to a restaurant, and if you don't see a changing table, ask the manager, how come there isn't one? Because all of us have a younger nephew or cousin or uncle or aunt or whatever that could utilize it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess my question is just continues to be how do we train ourselves to see the stuff that's implicitly there in society? How do we train ourselves to notice and to point out to our kids all these
They're
things?
watching. They're watching all of us.
Yeah. I couldn't remember exactly where it cut off, but we'll close with hymn number 170 in the Gray Hymnal. We are a gentle, angry people. I know that it is 11 o'clock, but I am going to beg your indulgence for a couple more minutes. This is important. We lost a member of our community this week. You might not have known Jean Popke, but I promise you she knew you, both as a community and any number of individuals in this congregation. Jean was the minister in Richmond at the Unitarian Universalist Church there. She was a leader in the Unitarian Universalist denomination. She served on the national board, on the board of the Ministers Association. She served Meadville Lombard Theological Seminary for years and years. She was also my mentor and friend. What that means is that for the first 3 years of my ministry here in Lincoln, we met at least once a month, often for 2 hours to talk through what was happening in Lincoln and how I could do better. And then since we've met, not as often, but as needed. She died in an accident about a week ago. We found out on Wednesday. And there's a lot of mourning happening in the broader Unitarian Universalist world. There's a lot of mourning that's happening with me. But I wanted to take a moment at the end of this service and talk about what she said to this congregation. Because a few years ago, she gave the charge to this congregation at my installation. And at installations, the minister gets a charge. Somebody gets up and says, "You, new minister who are new here are the things that you need to do to make this a successful ministry." And then somebody else gets up and says, you congregation, here are the things that you need to do to have a successful ministry. And that person was Jean. So we're going to take a couple minutes and revisit that charge together. And it's the next slide in the slideshow.
Oscar, I ask you to show that nothing has been slipped into your hands. Therefore, no one shall expect magic. I begin by thanking you for the honor of addressing the congregation you serve, Oscar. I know that the privilege of ministry, especially when it is young, seems fragile sometimes and worrisome and demanding, and you entrust me with this honor, and I thank you for that. It has been my honor this year to be in conversation with Oscar, nominally so that he might be mentored, and objectively so that I might be mentored. I was blessed. I have only 3 words to extend to you as a congregation today. Therefore, you may wish to pull out something to write them down with, if in fact you feel challenged by the emotion of the moment. This good minister of at least 20 minutes now has come among you and spoken with me at length. I know you by name. And all of it is blessed and good. He is quite happy here. So you are off to a good start. Yet 3 things I must tell you. First of all, listen. Not that polite thing, but the real deep down to your toes thing. Don't jump to do something. Don't react, lest the doing be your undoing. You have called to your church a thoughtful man, a prophetic and compassionate man, to listen and discern together, all of you. He and you together is the source of all power. If you wish to be a congregation of power, comfort to the poor, to the sick, to the lonely, to the imprisoned. If you wish to speak and have Lincoln listen, then you must listen first. Stretch. You have called a minister who is practical and brave, but he does not lack for imagination. He knows you and he have limits, but he would not have you live inside them. He calls all of us and you to imagine what is beyond our limits and how together we might become something more. And that we might raise the voice not just of this church, but of all of Unitarian Universalism when the voice is needed most, when others have gone away because the lessons are too difficult or the challenges for the gay, lesbian, trans community too hard, when women's rights might be at risk, when conversion therapy guides too many parents. This is a man who will speak. And if it stretches you to stand behind him, be brave as he is brave, risk as he risks for you, so that your congregation may become true community. And last, love, because you'll get it wrong, because you'll have to try again, because you will misunderstand, but when you do, remember, look to yourself first, because our pilgrim tradition is about the act of conscience and reflection about what we are doing. In the order of service, Oscar has placed this quote from Reinhold Niebuhr: "Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we must be saved by love." Allow yourself to be saved by love. For I wish to go back to Richmond and hear in just a few years of the wonders of the Church of Lincoln. Sacramentally, interpersonally blessing this world, unafraid. I listen. The Latin for good words is benedictus.
We close worship services with a benediction. Of course, that wasn't just a charge to the congregation. They never are. Because one of the best ways to help somebody be brave and be compassionate is to tell them that they are brave and compassionate. I know this congregation as compassionate and courageous. And the Jean Pupke that I knew would encourage me to make this connection. If you are free tomorrow at 3 o'clock, consider joining me at the City Council, where the council will be voting on the passage of the Fairness Ordinance that's been under consideration for the last 2 weeks. We will talk about that more next Sunday. But that is a fight worth having. And that is an argument worth winning. For now, go in peace, go in love, and go in faith. Amen.
because I would have been here. Okay, good.